Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the most OP build for RAFA in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5 in Borderlands 4. Now this is a extremely powerful build. I will not be using glitches, but I will talk about a few that are very powerful, likely to get patched in the future. Now, we can pretty much keep an infinite uptime on our action skill here, as you can see, because it's just going around destroying everything for us, almost AFK, and yeah, as long as you're destroying enemies, it's going to keep it going infinitely, and we can ricochet our bullets around to pretty much everyone. So this is a very powerful build, and just a quick overview of the skills we'll be utilizing. So it's mostly going to be in the red skill tree. I'm going to go show two different versions of this, because we can stick in the full red skill tree. I also took 15 points in the blue skill tree to get the first impression. This is only going to be if you want to use the hot slugger weapon, because it has one bullet in its magazine there, and every time you reload it, it gets 50% boost to its damage, which is further boosted by the 55% boost to corrosive damage here whenever you reload a gun, so you can actually get a massive boost to the damage, and that's only going to be relevant if you're utilizing the hot slugger weapon. I'll be covering all the best weapons as well as gear. The bod weapon is also quite nice too, but we'll get to that in a later section. We'll start off with a build from level 0. And from the top, the first 5 levels should always go in the city R here, which will give you a boost to 25% gun damage. The nice thing is there's actually specialization in this game, which will add this to our special Peacebreaker Cannons here. Now, on top of this, you could go with the overdrive skill here, which I don't really recommend it. Now, for our first augment, actually the best augment in the game, it depends. It's actually both these two that we get here. Instinto is great because you can keep pretty much near infinite uptime, so this allows our Peacebreaker Cannons to gain increased critical hit chance. Pressing F causes them to get increased critical hit chance and damage, and causing this action skill to refresh or to drain quicker. It also has a kill skill. Whenever killing an enemy, you can restore action skill duration, while this is also causing our action skill duration to drain faster. That's okay though, because we can just continually mow people down to get this back, and there's also ways to get our action skill back a little bit quicker, so we're going to use this. However, there's actually a few uses where the Bullet Buddy Deluxe is really great, because whenever you press F while the Peacebreaker Cannons are active, this allows you to do shots that consume no ammo. This is great for underbarrel guns. Underbarrels in this game are extremely overpowered. If you're able to find like a Torg explosive stickies, you can do crazy amounts of damage. This is not a bug, but it pretty much feels like it, because it can destroy bosses in seconds. So you want to be looking out for weapons with the Torg stickies. This is better for bosses, and the Instinto is better for just general mobbing. For our next level, we're going to take the Werga here, which is really good because anytime that we critically hit an enemy, we get our action skill duration restored 15%, and this is a cooldown of 4 seconds. So every 4 seconds, you want to try and get a critical hit to be able to replenish the ability to use the Peacebreaker Cannons. For our next level, the Resiliencia here can be nice because this will give you upwards of around 30% damage reduction whenever Overdrive is active, but I actually prefer to take this here because we want every bonus to skill damage that we possibly can get, as the boost to the damage is actually quite high, as you're going to see. So the Maestro here, I don't recommend the Veganza here, which drops a grenade. It's actually not that good. And the El Valiente can be okay, but I think it's better just to put our last 2 points here. Now, once we get down lower, all 3 of these augments aren't really that great. I want to personally get to the double auto shot here, which will replace them with shotguns that deal increased damage of increased pellet count. Additionally, they have a chance to ricochet, and these will deal reduced damage, but critical hits always ricochet, which we want to try and get critical hits as much as possible. So we're going to build up. We can only take the asymmetric warfare here, so indirect projectiles. Now, what is an indirect projectile? That is something that you didn't fire from your gun, so as long as you didn't press the trigger, this will count. So this is ricocheted pellets, any type of thrown guns, and your action skill weapons. So that's what it describes it as, but also the grenade or the fireworks shield also seems to work alongside this, so it gets a nice boost to the 45% damage there, which is really great because that's the shield you want to use on this build. Now we got the Aaron Spark and the Hostile Acquisition. The Aaron Spark's really good, but one little thing is a little bit of lifesteal can actually be really good, just enough to keep us topped up. So we only want like 1, maybe 2 points in this, but adding the Aaron Spark can be a big booster damage. So all indirect projectiles deal bonus incendiary damage, and if it already deals that fire damage, it doubles the bonus damage. So this can give us a bonus of upwards of 32%. If we take another point, that'd be 40% of our damage dealt as bonus damage on all those indirect projectiles. This one is one you could take to 5 points, but I like to have a little bit of the lifesteal just because that gives you a lot of survivability. You don't need a whole lot of it. You could go with it higher if you really wanted to, but from all these, I do think that this one is the best. The Rolling Stone is cool in essence, so whenever you run, you have a chance for bullets to ricochet off of you. But I think it's better to continue on down here. The double auto shot as mentioned. It has 6 pellets, 190 shots per or damage per pellet, 10% ricochet chance, and that gives you 50% of your damage. Now we're going to also grab the lateral plinking here. So indirect projectiles gain a chance to ricochet here, 25%. So again, further boosting up our damage around to multiple enemies. Now I really like to take the vitriol here, which will give you a boost of 55% damage whenever you fully reload your magazine. So this can be a good choice too, because this is going to apply to the hot slugger as mentioned. Now for the final points, we can either go down further into this tree. We would likely want to take the pain reaction, so the guns have a chance to ricochet off enemies with status effects, so you can get that boost up to 15%, or you can take this here for the boost to shine. I think taking all 5 points here is optimal, and then you can go ahead here. The beam team's not really that great. I don't think it synergizes as well as the double auto shot, but you can take this Inspirato here. Whenever Rafa deals a status effect on an enemy, he gains increased critical or action skill cooldown rate and decreased action skill duration rate. Since we're often going to be applying status effects, this can be a good way to boost up your overall way to keep your action skill active. However, if you don't want to go into this skill tree, I would still recommend taking the vitriol here. And you can go ahead and take the barrage, which will gain increased splash damage while overdrive is active. And then the temerario here, which allows you to get increased gun damage. And this can be pretty crazy. So if we put all 5 stacks, I have one from if you get a class mod that adds points to this is really good. And I'd recommend sticking here because this will give you upwards of 60% damage with minus 60% gun handling whenever you're in your overdrive, which is a huge boost to your overall damage. This one could be a nice one to go down and take as well. So the Soldado, which doubles all overdrive bonuses, which is increases to the damage and some of the other abilities here. So you could easily just go around and take this if you have a class mod that has the Temerario. I personally prefer not to go into this skill tree and to actually take the blue skill tree as mentioned, because you can give yourself the increased reload speed. Not super useful, especially on the hot slugger, because you can actually manually reload it and it's going to be a little bit quicker. But this will actually give you actions skill cooldown rate, 15% per stack, 3 stacks. And you get this every time you reload your gun. And then we can take the first impression. So it really just depends on if you have the hot slugger, this is going to be the best because that's a huge boost to the damage of that gun. And then for the final points, you could go back into, you can go into the green skill tree and get the increased gun damage and melee damage. That's not a bad choice as well. Or we can go into the red tree and take the pain reaction. So this gives you, again, the chance to ricochet your bullets per status effect on the enemy. If you don't have it, take the points out of this skill tree and put the 5 points into barrage, Temerario, and then take 1 point here and go down into here. So that's how we build out the character. And specializations also play a pretty big role for Rafa. If you don't have them, don't worry too much about it, but you want to max out the Daredevil here, which gives you increased critical or action skill cooldown rate. But all 3 of these is really effective. So I am a gun. Action skill damage now benefits from increases to gun damage. That's huge because you can get a lot of different boosts to gun damage. And that's going to give you a big boost to your overall action skill damage, which is great. We also get the honed mind, so action skills get a chance to critically hit enemies and also gain action skill critical hit damage boost. Again, good because we can actually apply these critical hits pretty easily. Riddle you this, whenever the Vault Hunter deals gun damage, you can get a stack of Riddle you this, giving you upwards of plus 50% gun damage. That's great. And then finally, now with caffeine, whenever you use a rep kit, you get a cooldown of 25% off your action skills. So 3 of those and you got pretty much your action skill back. This is crazy because you can use the standard triple bypass here, which gives you 3 charges of the heal, but it also gives you increased damage by 200%. So you can pair this with the reload that boosts up the hot slugger even further. That is pretty crazy synergy. Now the critical hit knife, obviously that's kind of everyone's talking about. It's a very powerful weapon. You don't have to use this. You can use whatever best available grenade. I also like the augments if you're the singularity if you're mobbing because it can pull enemies around it. But this one obviously is really strong. Now, if we're looking for enhancements, I would recommend ones that are going to increase the number of possible ricochets by 1, because ricochets are a big portion of this build's damage, because the ricochets are just crazy with the damage potential. There's also a 20% chance to grant a critical hit if we have a Jacob's License weapon. Pistol accuracy is increased, blah, blah, blah. That's okay. If you can find anything that boosts up your gun damage, preferably shotgun damage, that's going to be most optimal. But the pistol damage boost here is actually applied to this gun, the Armored Bod. So that can be kind of nice. Any of the bod weapon will receive any of the buffs from any of these that apply to any different weapons, which is great. Now, the Fireworks Shield is oftentimes the best choice here. However, I also like to run the Onion Shield because it gives you the immunity to damage for 2 seconds whenever you do whenever you break the shield. There's 4 segments. So if you're going to use one of the most overpowered weapons in the game with the Kickballer, which can explode, especially with the Jacob's License accessory and chain to multiple enemies, you can utilize that to keep yourself alive. Otherwise, I would say that the Fireworks is the best shield, and the Timekeeper's new shield can be all right as well because it takes away your shield, but it can be a pretty okay choice as well. I just like the Fireworks for the big boost to the overall damage. We want to try and also get the Dead Eye condition there, which gives you every critical hit will increase your overall damage on critical hit damage, which is pretty great. Or getting the High Caliber, which allows you to pierce enemies with your bullets. And finally, the Dancer class mod is going to be the absolute best choice here. This gives your overdrive bonuses increased by 100%, and overdrive ends whenever Rafa's action skill ends. This is the hardest one to get good RNG on. I have plus 40% kinetic damage on this, which will apply to like the Hot Slugger and the Armored Bod there, and also plus 25% action skill cooldown rate. I would recommend looking for shotgun damage and kinetic damage if possible, because that'll further boost up the Hot Slugger and make it actually pretty strong. Now, for other supporting weapons, I like the Superconducting Plasma Coil. This is great for reducing shields. It's not as good as it was in Borderlands 3, but it's still a very powerful weapon. The Armored Bot, as mentioned, does everything, and you can use. You can also apply and use the pistol ammo, because there's no real good pistols in this game. There's a couple actually, but not the best. I also like this one here with the Torg Lace and Sticky Magazine. So you can, if you have the Bullet Buddy Deluxe augment applied to your weapon, and then switch to your alternative mag, you can shoot an unlimited amount of these, and it'll shred through most bosses. If you can get that Torg under barrel on the Bod shotgun, that's going to be probably one of the best weapons for him. The Hot Slugger obviously is really strong, plus 90% damage whenever you take out enemies, and then also we can go with the Kickballer here for the easy critical hit, destroy everything in the battlefield. That's probably the best weapon in the game, but it is likely bugged. Lucian's Flank's great too, because it can replenish bullets to your magazine. Burt's Bee is another high damage option too, and Oscar Mike, specifically the Space Laser, can be powerful. And I also like this one here, the Sniper Rifle with the under barrel magazine, because this will also ricochet to multiple enemies, and the damage from this is crazy. And this build really benefits from being able to get critical hits off, so obviously the critical hit knife is really useful, but we want to ricochet bullets around to as many enemies as possible. So this is great because we got this gun here, which will ricochet, so you just got to try and hunt down some people, get some critical hits off on them, and then with the Fireworks Shield, that's always going to be shooting around at enemies. But yeah, the Hot Slugger is going to be your best option for damage, as you can see there, because you can likely one-shot most enemies, and then the Bod is also a pretty good gun as well, as mentioned, just because of the extra benefits that apply to it. The damage is pretty good on it as well, as you can see there. When going against bosses in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5, you want to be able to take care of the, obviously, resistances and everything, but with our Peacebreaker Cannons and the special ability there, we can shoot endlessly here, which goes pretty crazy. You can see with this shotgun, you can just endlessly shoot it, but it's also great on the Bod, which allows you to also just completely shoot it multiple times. I accidentally pulled out that gun there, which chains around endlessly, so the Kickballer, obviously, that's a very powerful weapon, but you will down yourself unless you're using the Onion Shield, and this is more so suited for if you have multiple enemies at a time, because yeah, you can see here, you barely can tell what's happening. But yeah, that's able to easily wipe out enemies. I'd probably prefer not utilizing that, because it is a little bit overpowered. This boss also drops the Katagawa's Revenge, I'm looking for. And the mines will give you a much higher amount of damage, but with this, you can see here, we actually got crazy damage whenever we have that infinite shots on. Yeah, it can do some pretty crazy stuff here. The Armored Bot isn't the highest amount of damage, but you can see there, it still is pretty effective overall. This is, again, on Ultimate Vault Hunter 5, so the bosses obviously have a little bit more health, but you can see there, we're dealing pretty good damage overall. Again, I do prefer using the Hot Slugger there, because, yeah, that can be pretty crazy damage as well. And this will also further boost up your damage as it chains around to multiple enemies and takes them out, giving you that plus 90% to your overall damage. But yeah, this is a pretty effective build in Borderlands 4. It can ricochet around to multiple enemies. It's at its best whenever you have a ton of enemies you're fighting against, because yeah, it can spread around really quickly. So there is the most overpowered build for Rafa in Borderlands 4. Let me know your thoughts, and if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you all in the next video.